Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, founder Acharya Viskan's Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yeah, so today we've got Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 3, and Text 13. And the translation, it says, deprived of its quality of aroma by the wind, the element earth is transformed into water, and water, deprived of its taste by that same wind, is merged into fire. And the purport says, the Srimad Bhagavatam gives several descriptions of the material creation by which air is expanded from ether, fire from air, water from fire, and earth from water. Now in the reverse order, the creation is wound up. Thus earth emerges back into the water from which it came, and water similarly merges into fire. So we've got the process of the creation unfolds, right? And now at the time of the destruction of the universe, it goes in the reverse order. It starts out, it says there's many things happening in creation. Here we're particularly talking about the elements that come from it comes from ahankara, ego, false ego, in the mode of ignorance. So it mentions in the creation, right, that you start out with this primordial element, pradhan, which is inactive, but it's the material nature unactivated, and the Karnadakshaya Vishnu conveys through his glance the power of time and the living entities, and that activates the pradhan, and then which is the inactive material energy, and then so the ahankara is like the primary element that allows this material nature to function as it does, and in the three different modes of nature, different elements are created. And so it says that in the mode of goodness, mind comes. In the mode of passion, intelligence, buddhi comes. And then the things that we're talking about here, the duller, less important in some senses, material elements come. So there's space, ether, which has they're called tanmatras, how you perceive them, sound, which is interesting. It's a more subtle type of sound than we have. And then from that comes air, right, or the wind, and that has touch. There's sound and touch. So each, as it unfolds, there's seemingly a potential, right, in that's being fulfilled here. And then from the air, then you get form, fire, which has form, right? And so it has sound, touch, and form, and then you get taste that comes from develops from fire, turns into water, which has the new element of taste, and then earth has the new tanmatra of smell. And so here is this process is going in, like you roll the film backwards, run it backwards, and the video backwards, and it's being wound up. This is part of the destruction of the material universe that's being described here. And there's a series of these things. This one is the destruction of the entire universe, but there's the smaller destruction. This happens at the end of Brahma's life, and And then you have the ones that are periodic. Every day of Brahma, there's a lesser destruction where all the planets up to, up and past and surpassing um, the Swargaloka where the Devas live are inundated with water, you know, and during Brahma's night. So every day he kind of has to recreate parts of the universe and repopulate them. And then there's the and then the universe lasts as long as Mahavishnu's breath. Right. So it says the lifetime of Brahma it's 311 trillion years and a little bit of change. Is how long by our calculation the universe lasts. And then from a higher point of view, where Mahavishnu, where the universes are coming from the pores of his body as he's lying sleeping, um, is one breath. In and out. They're created and destroyed, created and destroyed, created and destroyed. This whole lifetime of Brahma in that case. And then periodically, during Mahavishnu's day, then there's no creation at all. And the material energy becomes completely inactive again. All the souls go back into the body of Mahavishnu and awaiting a whole new cycle. So there's a couple of things that stand out to me in this particular description, and I guess the first is that really the scale of the time. The one thing that happens right away when Krishna is speaking to Arjuna is one of the first things he does to try to help him gain some perspective, because that's really what he needs. The battle, the upcoming battle of Kurukshetra, isn't going to be a pleasant thing. I mean, from one point of view, if you look back afterwards and you see, okay, Krishna was present, people who died got liberation, Yudhisthira gets set in the throne. So, Krishna had very good motivations. He was fulfilling his goal of reducing the number of warriors on the earth because it's just too much conflict. So he was doing all these wonderfully good things, but from the perspective of Arjuna, seeing his having to fight against his family members, and it seems like a horrific thing. It really looks something powerful. So Krishna tries to get him to see things in perspective. And so the first thing he does, right, is say that we always exist and we never cease to exist. Right? And so then we have, and then he says, never was there a time when any of us, didn't exist, and there'll never be a time when we don't exist. And then he explains that in 213 about the transmigration of souls. So immediately that makes your present life not a standalone thing, right? There's something more to it. This is a longer process. We've had past lives, and we have the potential for future lives. Of course, with spiritual realization, we have a possibility of ending this cycle and going to a higher dimension, which is better in every respect. But it's like you can use this situation. You may have a really bad day, right? But yet you have a tendency to see that day in context of the rest of your life. And so it might be a really bad day, or you had certain things happen that were really discouraging. But you say, okay, there's another, I'm still can bounce back from this. There's still more to come. And I've had previous good days. So here, Krishna gives Arjuna this notion of reincarnation, and this gives like an idea about how extensive that may be. Right? That we don't know how many times we've gone through, the periods of an entire universe, the 311 trillion years. That's a lot of lives. And then how many times have we gone through the whole, and so these happen within a breath of Mahavishnu. So, we how many times have we been existing throughout his entire day, which is a lot of breaths, a lot of universes, and then maybe gone back into his body, waiting for the next creation. So we've got quite a history, and I think that's something that can help us to put some perspective on the life that we have right now. because we still have this notion that this is me and this is my life. And we don't see it in the kind of broader context that we might otherwise. So this really extends that. And and we can, and I think that gives us a chance to maybe be a little riskier in this life, right? And I mean this in a spiritual sense, that the process of devotional service, right? We say is taking the word in 1866 in the Gita is sharanam, which really has the connotation of shelter, right? So can we trust Krishna? Can he become our only, increasingly our only shelter? And can we increasingly trust him to do what's good for us? I mean, this is part of the as far as I can understand it, the process of devotional service is a consensual relationship with Krishna. Krishna is offering it, but it's up to us to say yes, and actually to continue to say yes, right? Because we have the we have certain we're placing, whether consciously or unconsciously or both, we're putting conditions on Krishna. We have certain expectations from him, and usually it means that we're hoping that, hey, it always is helpful um, to have friends in high places, right? And so Krishna is the highest friend in the highest place, and so we think that our life that maybe then may move smoothly, and we expect Krishna to kind of abide by that in some ways. That we're looking for. That's one of our motivations, is to have our, whether it's really conscious or not, that to have Krishna kind of smooth out the bumps in our lives, you know. But Krishna is, as Prabhupada puts it, our well-wisher, the Sudardam, the 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 person who has a good feeling towards us, a Sudat, a good-hearted, and a Sudat is also a friend, because like a benefactor. So Prabhupada says the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities. And so bhakti has this, especially bhakti as we receive it in our tradition, has the capacity to completely transform us. The description of bhakti, growing, starting from a seed and growing from a creeper, or you see what happens in the first verses of Shikshastakam. There's this tremendous, deep transformation that can take place. We become completely, we become spiritualized. We become transformed, and that happens through grace. It's the power. If we look at the Shikshastakam, it's the power of the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. It says Sankirtan, which can mean chanting, in a group together. Also, San has the connotation of completeness. So, proper, perfect chanting. So that also then brings in japa into that frame. But are we willing to let Krishna, are we willing to say, okay, Krishna, I give you a really free hand in my life to control what happens, and to try to address all of the different, we have these deep attachments and aversions. You see it in the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. No, Dhruv. Um, yeah, Prahlad Maharaj. It's Prahlad Maharaj in the fifth canto of praying to Nrsingadev. And he says that he talks about his karmashayan, which Vishwanath Chakravarti, Prabhupada says they're deeply rooted material desires, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that they are impressions of karma made upon ahankara, our identity. So we have certain attachments and aversions that because of our past experience seems to become part of us. It's the false ego. Of course, ahankara is the false ego, but that's what we identify with. This is me. And so we have certain core attachments and aversions that we seem like that just make up our identity. And so he prays there that let Nrsingadev's thunderbolt-like claws and teeth remove those things. So it takes an invitation to do that, right? Because it's a consensual relationship. If Krishna were just to transform us into a perfect devotee, then we wouldn't have played a part in that. It wouldn't be us any longer. This is what the consensual relationship is important. Prabhupada says love has to be free. So if Krishna just sprinkles a little fairy dust on us and suddenly we have Krishna prema, then it's like we're a new being. And there was no even history where we said we're interested in and have for the relationship to develop from beginning to end. It's almost like we're given a love potion. There's this old the old television series in the 60s, The Twilight Zone, had an episode where somebody used a love potion on somebody else, and it was successful. And at first they were very happy about it. And then they realized that the love they were receiving was just because of the chemical. It wasn't real. And so we have to be real. And so the taking shelter of Krishna means, and we have, this is something we have fear about. We want to have, kind of smooth sailing while we're making advancement. And maybe that can happen. But we also have to give permission. And that means really taking shelter of Krishna, like, okay, Krishna, I trust you to do what's good for me. This is what a well-wisher does. Oh, um, somebody who's can be a different kind of benefactor, can give you what you want, right? But Krishna, it says, wants to give us what we need. That's a real well-wisher. It says that's one of the differences between Krishna and Shiva. Shiva is known to be easily pleased. He gives you what you want. And if it causes you trouble, that was your fault. He just gave you what you want. So Krishna is someone who will take maybe a little bit more of a parental type of view towards us and say, look, that's not good for you. And then he's also willing to give us what is. And sometimes because we're addressing sometimes even very deeply rooted attachments and aversions in there, that they may not be so pleasant. So this is one of the things we have to do is is to encounter, to recognize, and to see if what we can do with the fear that we have. Can we give ourselves? Can we trust Krishna? Can we give him a free hand to do what needs to be done for our spiritual growth, deeper spiritual growth, even though it might not be pleasant? I mean, you see that happening with Arjuna in the Gita. He just gets completely disintegrated. And of course, at the end of that, his because bhakti always grows, even though he's a eternal associate. From that, his trust in Krishna has grown. He says, "Okay, this is the worst thing possible." He looks at it. Krishna says, "Look, I've told you all the secret knowledge. Do what you want." He says, "Think about it and do what you want." And he sees that Arjuna just can't. He just can't connect the dots. This thing is too horrible. There's no way to reason it away. And so finally, Krishna, makes his last play and says, "Look, trust me. Don't worry about, the intricacies of this dharma or that dharma. Don't worry about this line of vision. I'm saying it. This is the thing to do. Trust me, and don't be afraid." Right. So that's Krishna's. That Krishna's talking to us. Trust me, and don't be afraid. Right. But of course we are. We're attached. And we're averse, we're afraid of things. And we don't know how much we want to cede control of our lives. But when you look back and say, look, who knows? We've survived a whole lot of things in all of these different cycles. And so what if something is a little uncomfortable? We've survived it before, we can survive it again. So maybe it makes it a little easier for us if we see that bigger picture to, maybe we have to go through something uncomfortable. Maybe it's because it's difficult to change your identity, to let go of things that made us feel safe, made us feel worthwhile, made us, feel some happiness. right? We cling to things so deeply, and maybe it's coming from many past lives as well. That karmashyana are built up from many past lives. So the real important things from this life get imprinted and carried forward. So are we willing, to let Krishna have a freer and freer hand? It's not, we can't do it all at once, but a freer and freer hand, given that. Uh, the other thing is interesting is that these particular elements here are uh, they're coming from the pradhan, but with the false ego, ahankara in the mode of ignorance. So these things are the least important of the material elements. Um, of the material elements. And it's interesting. This is I think it shows you one of the reasons why Prabhupada uh, about the nature of Prabhupada's criticisms of modern science. Right, it's the materialism part. Right, because this is the elements here, the ether, air, fire, water, earth. These are the material elements. There's subtle material elements, the intelligence and the mind, which are from the higher modes. They're less dull. They're more important. They're more foundational, actually. So these are the least important elements. The space, uh, gaseous things, energy, liquids and solids are the least important components of the material world and of life. And so Prabhupada he particularly was opposed, to the notion that life can come from matter, or that even other things, come from matter. And so that's one of the foundational principles of modern science, is that life and all the other things, and all the things that are higher up, the intelligence and the mind and other such things, that those things are byproducts of matter also. So there's, what this we understand, of course, that the consciousness is the soul, right? And that's a whole nother type. That's not even the material element, but the mind and all the other psychological functions, all the Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur calls them the internal organs, and that doesn't mean like the heart and the lungs, but the part of our the psychic life. We feel our emotions, and we have the intelligence and the mind, and we are conscious of the ego. All these things, the inner life, you might say, the inner life that we have, and those things are of a higher nature. Right? The ahankara is the foundation of everything, actually. And then you have all these other higher elements. And so in science, because we can look at at the more tangible, these tangible ones in the mode of ignorance, and we think, okay, everything else derives from that. So mind, the mind is coming strictly from the brain. And they even have a good, and they would, lump intelligence and ego in with that. All these things derive from matter, and it limits our ability to understand things. And Prabhupada would challenge them and say, okay, look, you've got all the elements, create life. you know and and we're not able to do it. Prabhupada was interesting. He said that the Bhagavatam could produce Nobel prizes if even if people looking at things in a scientific way could broaden their perspective and give up just that materialism that everything derives from those things. They're easier to study, and so therefore that was the reason why it begins. But there's lots of evidence, right, that there's things that just don't derive from matter, that there's other things happening, and but that's a real almost an article of faith at this point. And it's interesting that there was long ago a book by Thomas Kuhn talking about the anatomy of scientific revolutions. And so science in general, when there's something that doesn't fit, when there's something that's unexplained, when there's something that's seemingly anomalous, that should make people excited because, oh, this is a chance to discover something new. But in practice, when science, along with it has prestige and position you're the such and such professor at such and such a university with Nobel Prizes and things, then people actually are resistant in many ways, especially to very strong revolutions in science, because their whole life will be based on something that's now obsolete. And so there's been a clinging to this materialism where it just doesn't work. My spiritual master, he was writing his PhD dissertation in religion, but he asked Srila Prabhupada what he should write his dissertation on, and Prabhupada said you should disprove Darwin. And so of course that didn't really fit within his realm. But he thought about it. So he went to Sadaputta, who was a mathematician, and he asked him about that. And Sadaputta told him even at that time, this was back in the I guess early 80s. No, it was in the 70s. Prabhupada was still there. It was in the early 70s. And and Sadaputta said that, well, it says we know that mathematically the mechanism that Darwin gave, that just the random mutations, especially now that we know the complexity of how many genes it takes to make any kind of it says one gene, one protein that it takes, to make any kind of physical change. He says that there simply isn't enough time for random mutations to take place like that. He says all the mathematicians know it, but because we're considerate to our colleagues, we don't say anything. And so there's clearly actually in some intelligence. We don't have time to talk more about that, but that's interesting. This is because these are the lowest level material manifestations, and they don't produce the higher level ones. But we've become attached to that. The materialism of science could work without materialism. Could expand its view. And Prabhupada said that could win people some Nobel Prizes. Okay, so we need to have time for discussion. So let's do that right now. Questions and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Giri Govardhan Prabhu. Wonderful class about transformation and mutation and how Krishna is behind it all. Thank you very much. Would anyone like to ask a question or share a reflection? My reflection is that Krishna is our well-wisher. He knows what's good for us and he supplies that out of love when we're sincere. And when we are insincere, Krishna lets us make mistakes. Correct, Giri Govardhan Prabhu?
And I would say it's sincerity means that we trust him enough to do it. We give him permission.
Yeah.
Now, I really don't think it's a qualification that we have to do. Krishna is already our well-wisher, but he's reacting to our openness to the relationship. It's just like any kind of consensual relationship. He could just come right in and say, okay, I change you. Here's Krishna Prema. But that would override our free will. So it's not like Krishna's like, yeah, I can help you if you really get your act together, or if you become a better person. No, he's yes, I'll make you a better person. But you have to say yes. It's much more giving our consent than deserving. This is the path. The deserving is kind of, I mean, if we say sincerity, that I trust Krishna, right? That I trust him and I'm willing to let him do that. I say, okay. Like because Krishna was like, he was going to let Arjuna walk away. He said, do what you want to do. Arjuna could have walked away. And knowing Krishna, he had a backup plan, or two or three or four or five. But he said, okay, Arjuna, you have to say yes. You say yes and do that on the basis of trusting me. So we have that. And I think we have to say a million yeses to Krishna. Can we take it a little farther? Can we make the relationship closer? Do we want to do this? Do you want me to be more than just kind of somebody that watches over your life from a distance? Do you want to be closer? Do you want to be transformed? Do you want to dig into that karmashayan? I can help you with that. But if we say no, 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 Krishna's going to hold us. He's going to respect our wishes. So Krishna already he has that. He's the well-wisher unconditionally. In his in the Madhurya Kadambini, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur describes Krishna's kripa using the same words that you find in the second chapter of Bhagavatam, that it describes the bhakti that we ideally will have, ahoitikiya pratiyata, unbroken or unbreakable and causeless. So Krishna, and that's because Krishna has prema. And so his well-wishing towards us is always present. It's to all living entities, right? So why isn't he helping the demons? He is when he fights with them, but they don't give him permission. So the reason he helps us to a certain degree is not so much that we earn that, because it's not earnable. Krishna's grace is something that doesn't have a purchase price, but it's that we surrender in that way. We said, yes, Krishna, I give you greater leeway to do what's good for me, to do what's right for me. And I let you do that. I want you to do that. And so that, if you want to call that sincerity, then that works. But oftentimes we get sincerity means like, okay, I really want to please you, Krishna. I want to do this. But Krishna's like already ready. And we're saying, I really want you, Krishna. I really want, but we're saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this other thing to me. We're putting conditions on it. And so it becomes funny when we go, oh, Krishna, I need your mercy. But I'm saying, but don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Right? It's the don't do's that do the main thing. And if we say, okay, Krishna, I'm ready, we don't have to pray, beg him for his mercy. It's there. The mercy is just there. All right, so we have there's Gail and Sudbi. I'm not sure who was first.
Uh, mm, yeah.
Gail was first.
Okay,
Gail
Gail,
was
why don't
first.
you go?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yeah. Of course, wonderfully inspiring class as always. Um, my question is this, you know, why can't, when I say yes to Krishna, right? I want to say yes to the fairy dust. You know, I don't want to go through the tribulations of
Yeah,
change. I just want the
yeah.
fairy dust.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, and we can have it. I mean, we can have pretty easily, as far as I can understand it. Okay, as we can have pretty easily a nice peaceful life, in Shantarati, where because this is what's interesting. Like I said, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says this in the Gita, in his commentary on 716. That the people that approach Krishna for something material, it's very, straight up, I need help with something, or I want something. Karma Mishra Bhakti, not the kind of bhakti that we have. And they do some bhakti. For that purpose. It's motivated by that. It says Krishna fulfills their material desire. And then because of the fact that they approach Krishna, that he takes them to Vaikuntha, where they don't have service per se. It's Shanta Rati. It's not even Rati, but it's Shanta. They live peacefully in Vaikuntha. And he says they'd stay there eternally. So it's not that hard to do that. And so we can do that. I'm convinced that we easily can do that. If that's what, if we want just a nice eternal, peaceful life where it's blissful, there's no problems. We can do that. We can choose that. Okay. I mean, right? We have our bhakti is a lot purer than that. But what do we want? So the level, and so that's what comes in our definition of bhakti. What really do we want out of it? And so even if we want just liberation in Vaikuntha, that's still a connection with Krishna. It's so much better than asking for something material. So why can't we get that? I think we can. So the question is, do we want to have a deeper relationship? And you see, and we're a long ways from this, I understand, but incrementally we can try to become more courageous. Is that you see Radharani's, Lord Chaitanya in the last verse of Shastakam, he's speaking in Radharani's voice. And she tells Krishna that he can do anything he wants. If you look at the verse where it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says that she says that I'm fallen at your feet, Padaratam. You can either aslishava, embrace me, means like, pick me up from the ground and embrace me, or you can pinashtumam, trample me under your feet. And you already know that you're, a lumpato, a womanizer, and therefore, it just kills me not to be able to see you. But she says, you and only you are the Lord of my life. And so she gives Krishna full reign to do whatever he wants. And I mean, at this point, it's deep into rasa, so she may not have that overt notion that Krishna is the well-wisher, but she's giving him carte blanche. And that's the closest relationship with Krishna means that we give up all other shelter. And we say, okay, Krishna, you are my well-wisher.
You said
And yes.
she doesn't have the overt what?
But it's like she's not really thinking so much overtly of Krishna as her shelter anymore. She's already, but that's how she got there. That's how you get there. Now she's just thinking that Krishna is just the Lord of her life, and she wants to please him. But that's what we have to do. We have to come to the platform. Prabhupada says that all the other rasas are built on shanta, and that shanta means that we see Krishna as the active ingredient of everything, right? And we feel sheltered by him. So for us, if we want to get more, if we don't want to just have eternal shanta, but we want to have a closer and closer to a deeper relationship with Krishna, which has all kinds of interesting moving parts, then we have to let Krishna act on us and
Yeah,
help
so
us to overcome.
the problem is actually just to shore up the courage to get from fairy dust to Radharani's mood.
Yeah, a little bit at a time to say, okay, Krishna, because I need to change in order to have a closer relationship with you. To begin to develop, spontaneous devotion and love, all this kind of stuff. I need to be deeply transformed, and that's scary.
And the
And I
best
need
way to
Krishna, and I
get
need
that
Krishna to
courage,
help it, and I need Krishna to help us with that.
and
And
so the
and so
best way
we
is to just pray for that, no? Just pray for it.
Yeah, just
Just pray for
to
that
say
courage.
how to reflect on how we can what confidence in Krishna we do have. Do we have confidence that he's really our well-wisher? Do we have faith that he will do things that are right for us? And how can we build on that faith and say, okay, Krishna, I give you a little bit more permission. I really want to change. It's a repeated consensual relationship, but made on a with some real basis. We can't just say yes, Krishna changed everything, and he knows we don't mean it. you know, you know, because we say, oh no, what are you doing that for? I just want to be changed. No, what are you doing that for? He says, I'm changing it, man. He said, I'm using the claws and teeth to rip out your karmasha.
Oh, don't use that analogy, Prabhu. Don't use that one.
That's advanced. Okay, but let's start on the fringes and let's let him act a little bit more and a little bit more. It's a situation of building trust. We don't have to have 100% trust, but we have to have a little trust, a little more trust, a little more trust.
Mhm.
We don't have to jump in the deep end,
Mhm.
but at least we can start moving forward with that. So it really isn't. So if we feel like we're not getting Krishna's mercy, it's a lot less, our sincerity or how we're qualifying ourselves, because we don't have any qualification really. Any qualification we have is already a gift from Krishna. It's that are we willing to trust Krishna to act in the way that's required in order to make the transformation. We're attached to that thing, and we don't want to go through what needs to be gone through. We just want Krishna to magically remove it. But then
Yeah.
we haven't developed a relationship closer. We're changed. We became somebody else, and so that's part of the building of the relationship, is the building of trust.
Mhm. Mhm.
Otherwise, he could just pour the love potion on us, and we love you, Krishna. And that's boring for him. All right, so Sadhvi.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for today's class. I have some kind of difficulty to understand when it says, give up, renounce the fruit of your activity. When I hear that, for me, it sounds like you do you live your life as is prescribed for you. Whatever happened, just renounce it that to me. But then I'm thinking, what maybe the fruit of activity will be that I will be tortured, for instance. Does that mean that I have to go through it and just renounce it to that result to Krishna, or what does that mean?
Well, see, when that's in Bhagavad Gita, renouncing the fruits of the activity, that's really about karma yoga. Okay? And so what you have karma, which means you do pious activities. And you do that because you get some, pious reactions, punya karma, right? And so initially what people do if they're like there's three kind of ways you can address the material condition. There's karma, where you try to do pious activities so your usually your next life will be better. All right. You can do jnana and try to just escape the world, or you can do bhakti. Okay. And so Krishna in that case is showing karma yoga. So first karma says you do the right things because you want to have a better life, right? You're going to get, Krishna's going to give you good things. Okay, now higher than that's karma yoga, where you just do the right thing, not being motivated for the results because it's just the right thing. And so that carries over to bhakti in a different sense. We perform bhakti and we trust Krishna to give us what we need. Oh, it's time. It's time for Arati here.
Temple room. Are you reciting the Prabhupada's prayers? We can't hear anything.
The only way in which we continue to do devotion is I vow to devote to thee with great honor and reverence. By his grace, one will cross the ocean, feel suffering, attain.
Hare Krishna, welcome to the Afterglow. Giri Govardhan Prabhu, you have a few minutes to stay over time?
Yeah, so let me continue a little bit with Sadhvi's question. So in a bhakti context, what that means is that when we're worshiping Krishna, we don't have like particular material desires, or at least we have less of them, right? Is that what we wanted to do with Krishna? Say, okay, Krishna, I'm going to serve you, and I trust you. I'm taking shelter of you. I believe that how you act will be for my benefit. And so even if some things may be challenging, at least I'm trying to work on my faith so I can accept that. Now, hopefully we don't have to deal with being tortured right away. That's kind of a big first step. But then at some point you can, there's Haridas Thakur, right, who was going to be, caned to death. That's a super high level of faith. But that we accepted, okay, Krishna, sometimes you may send me some challenges. At the beginning, we can say, okay, I believe that's your mercy to me. That's going to help me to grow. So I trust you to, in one sense, guide my life. Right. So otherwise, I can say, Krishna, I'm going to worship you, and I want a new car, or I want to be liberated. I want this. Right. We can classify that. That's what the karmis are doing. People are following karma are doing, and then the karma yogis are saying, okay, I'm just going to do it because it's the right thing to do, and that removes their karmic reactions. And for bhakti, we can say, okay, Krishna, I trust you to guide my life. I'm going to worship you, and I'm going to try to have more and more, take shelter of you, have more surrender to you, to let you do what you need to do for my benefit. Whether hopefully it won't be as bad as Arjuna, right? For us, when we have to do these things, hopefully it won't be torture, at least, any kind of in the near term. But if there's some challenges, I'll see that as your grace.
In other words, Krishna, I'm yours.
Yeah,
Right?
and I trust you to guide me. I'm holding on to your hand, and and let's go.
May I ask,
I want to become yours. I'm not ready yet, but I want to become more increasingly yours.
may I ask the following question?
Yes.
Follow-up question. Thank you. I have, in my understanding of what I have read and what I'm ignorant, I'm so fallen. So I need to learn. That's why I'm asking this question. I have understood that the family we born in, you share their karma also. Whatever you go through, it could be even their karma. The people you are associated with, also you get their karma. And whatever you do, the person who cooks for you, even that person, everything is shared, kind of. So is there any way to ask, is it wrong to ask, please, I beg of you, I will do everything what I have learned from the Shastra, whatever you have said, I will do, I will follow, and so on. But please, could you please protect me from this karma, not needing to go through all this karma, not to share others' karma, because I have gone through, and I'm still going through many things. You know what I mean? Is there
I know
any
what you
way you
mean.
could do it, or is it wrong
Yeah.
to ask? Thank you.
No, you don't really even have to ask. Actually, that's happening already. What it's if you look in the Madhurya Kadambini, it talks about how the effects of different types of things, karma and offenses and all these kind of things act on devotees, and very quickly your karma is removed. Prabhupada talks about that even. Prabhupada uses the example there's some small remnants left. He says if you have an electric fan and unplug it, it spins for a little bit. And the way I understand it is that karma is meant to be educational. It's not simply a punitive thing. And so, like you have acted in ways that people are acting towards you, and it's supposed to help you develop some understanding and compassion. And so by becoming a devotee, we have a tendency to improve ourselves quite a bit. And so much of the karma that's coming down the line is no longer relevant. And then but some little bit is left, and that's kind of determined by Krishna what still comes through that will still be beneficial for us. And so, as for a devotee, it says that generally what happens then is up to Krishna. And the more that we allow Krishna to act, and with a free hand, the more that a change can happen to us. So we shouldn't fear so much our karma any longer if we've taken up devotional service. That part is really taken care of quite early on. So you shouldn't. You don't even have to ask much for that. You can go ahead and ask, but I don't think you even have to. It's already happening.
Thank you, Namas. Thank you for that.
Okay, Anupam and Krishna Kumari. So Anupam, I think, was first.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the class. It was very enlivening as always. I always circle my calendar the days that you're speaking. I enjoy it thoroughly. I had a quick question / comment about something that I heard for the first time in my Krishna conscious career just yesterday, but it kind of answered one of the questions that I had had for a long time. So, we read in the 10th canto, when Krishna calls the gopis for the rasa dance, then there's certain gopis that were stuck and unable to join Krishna. And then it's described there in the commentary that because they were stuck, and because of the intense longing and that fire that was in them, that was created in them as a result, the last vestiges of their karma were burned up and eradicated. And that always struck me because I always thought, well, the first thing you learn about in Krishna consciousness is that as soon as you start chanting Hare Krishna, or as soon as you clap your hands once in kirtan, then your karma is effectively eradicated. But here we're seeing that even in Gokul, the gopis somehow or other still have some karma that they need to burn off, and that they do burn off in that Leela. But then I heard yesterday in a class, the senior devotee was saying that actually, if you remember Krishna at the time of your death, then you go back to Godhead, or you go to Gokul to be trained up. And so even if you're a Kanishta Adhikari, and then if you somehow or other, by Krishna's grace, by Prabhupada's mercy, you remember Krishna, then you will go to Gokul. You go to Krishna's Leela, where he's here in the material world, and then you'll be trained up, and then the last bits of your karma then can be eradicated, and then you go back to Goloka. So I've been reading and practicing for for 10 or 12 years now, and I'd never heard that idea before. I always assumed and kind of heard otherwise, that actually you have to be completely pure basically in order to go back to Godhead. You need to be completely free from material contamination, from material attachments, and then you'll be able to focus on Krishna at the time of death and go back home. But this was something revolutionary to me, and it gave me a lot of hope. But I'm not sure, I haven't heard a specific Shastric reference for that concept that, say, a Kanishta could, go to Gokul after this life. Aside from that little anecdote that's there in the 10th canto about how some of the gopis that were unable to join had some karma that they were burning off. So I was hoping you could speak on that. And
Yeah, I think the word probably really was meant to be anartha, because it's pretty clear that karma. Sometimes they use that terminology a little loosely, so it can be relate to us, but there's some anartha there. And so, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur analyzes that pretty carefully. So that there's even remnants of anartha from that remain from namaparad, that are not 100% removed until you meet Krishna face to face.
Wow.
But that dynamic of us of us, wanting Krishna and more than we fear. Like the gopis were, were passing through all of all of the things that social interference, right? Their husbands, they're leaving their children, their family members. This was like a completely, sinful act that they were doing, and so that they had to overcome all that kind of thing. That was one of the beauties of the pastime when Krishna was being taken to Mathura, was that at that point Radharani was like, she's like, these people have lost their minds. They're letting Krishna go. And so I have to do something. And so she gave up all shyness and did that. And so for some of those people, the social obstacles stopped them, but then that desire for Krishna, burned through that. Right. And so in that way we can do a similar thing. Right now what happened, back to Godhead is a pretty broad term, you know. And even if it's true, if we chant Hare Krishna and do that, and we go and get trained up to be a gopi or something, even though we remain kanishtas, maybe that's true. Maybe there's other ways to be in the spiritual world and other places and things that I don't know. If I wonder about that. But even if that's true, if we can make more advancement right here and now in this lifetime, then I believe that we can have a much, much bigger influence on the people around us. My spiritual master, he said that the difficulty that we have in doing in passing through anartha nivritti is the root debility of our society. And it causes our interpersonal relationships to be different. It causes organizational problems because people compensate for this kind of stuff. And if we could have those qualities that you see in the third verse of Shastakam, we would be so attractive that people would come to us much more easily and much more willingly, and we could help them more. So even if we can just stay a Kanishta, just chant Hare Krishna, follow the four regular principles, and go be a gopi in Vrindavan, that's gorgeous. That's beautiful. But even so, why do we have to wait? Why can't we get some of that advancement now in order to help others? Because we'll be so much more attractive. The relationships we have will be so much more beautiful. I always joke. I say that we could be devil worshippers and people would think about it.
Mm.
Wow, devil worshippers, but they're so nice. Everything is so beautiful. So we would be millions of more times attractive, and our behavior would be so much more kind and wonderful. So even if it's true that we can just hang on kind of where we are now and go back be a gopi, hey, beautiful. But there's still a reason why we would want to do something now. And to find a way to get through the anartha nivritti now so that we can help others while we're still here. That's the big mission of Lord Chaitanya, right? Is to help people here, not just for us. So we could accomplish that mission much better. Krishna Kumari?
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you for sharing so much. Can you hear me today?
I can. Yeah, quite clearly.
Yeah, I was really appreciating. I've actually been with a devotee on their deathbed, and it's reassuring if you're in Vrindavan, surrounded by Brij Basis chanting, and it's reassuring that they're going back to Krishna, for sure.
Yeah, it is.
And I just wanted to share with my husband. He actually, I'm always telling him they'll say something like, something going on. I was like, oh, you should pray to Krishna. And he always tells me, Krishna already knows everything that I am thinking. Like,
it's true.
It is true. But more and more, I'm just hearing that we're meant to be talking to Krishna and praying to Krishna.
Yeah, interacting with him. Yeah, he's right there and knows, but we can still communicate. Sometimes it helps for us to speak it out loud.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, but he has this like sweetness that like he knows that Krishna knows everything.
Well, then he's fine then. Yeah, that works for him, So yeah, so we have to we have individual relationships, So for him, he may feel that presence and just say, "Hey, Krishna, I'm already, we're already communicating internally. There's no problem." But then for us, it may be helpful to say it out loud, to speak the darn thing out loud, And so I think we have a choice on that,
Yeah, it's very beautiful. Yeah, we're such individuals, and Krishna loves us each, and no two
Yeah,
are the same. Thank you.
exactly. That's got Krishna likes the individuality. That's uniformity is boring, so he likes that. All right.
When Krishna Kumari said good morning, I felt like I'm a toddler again. The whole life is ahead of me. I'm protected. I'm loved. I'm about to start playing. Thank you, Krishna Kumari, for bringing in this energy.
I actually just wanted to see Radha really dark today.
The lavender outfit.
Then I just got this gift of actually hearing something wonderful. Yeah. So I could just say that Radha Muralidhar, today they are looking really, really regal. They have this deep purple garlands, plum-like, with lavender, dhoti and chatters. Gaurachandra his tilak is very distinct, and he's got a big silver moon-like gem around his neck. And Muralidhar, he's got his paisley piece in his turban, and it's tipped over with a peacock feather, and it's as if it was pointing to his beloved Radha. And Radharani is also wearing a paisley in her silver crown that's pointing back at Muralidhar's paisley in his turban. I think they have something planned for today. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Krishna Kumari.
Thank you for
There's
that.
a request in the audience to say something about Jesus on Christmas Day.
There we go. Yeah, let's open it up for Christmas here.
Giri Govardhan Prabhu, would you like to speak on Jesus on Christmas Day? Tie it all into today's class somehow?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess with, I'm always inspired by, the notion of that, unlimited grace, that Jesus presents. And that it's interesting. There's the place in the gospel that's really powerful. What is it? It's in Corinthians, I think, where it says, the power of love, where there's faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of those is love. That says you can speak in tongues, right? But those will eventually go away. You can maybe prophesy and that'll go away. But love remains. It doesn't go away. And so Jesus was like, he was really at the essence of things, and he reached out to people. He was ready to sacrifice his own happiness for others, and to give grace. It really was a power of grace. Actually, Father Richard Rohr, he talks about the Sermon on the Mount, the place where the Beatitude of Mercy, and he said he used to think that mercy was something that was given kind of maybe even a little grudgingly by God in certain particular circumstances, and he says, but as I've grown older, I've realized that's just who God is. He is just mercy. That's who he is. And it's our only business is to sink deeper and deeper into deeper nets of mercy. And he says it's something that he also says it says the relationship is on from God's side, and it's broken from our side. And he said we have a tendency to resist that mercy. He says in two ways. He says either we think that we are too good for just mercy, that I can get some credit and do it myself, or that I think that I'm unworthy of mercy, and those things keep us from absorbing. He says it's just who God is. It's what He is. He says that's who He is that He's merciful, and that's how we understand Krishna. And Jesus is an exemplar of that. He's willing to give fully of Himself to help others.
Thank you, Giri Govardhan Prabhu. Bhima Prabhu. Bhima Prabhu, unmute yourself and glorify Krishna, please. Or Jesus. Swami Jesus. There's a nice thing in the chat. Venu Madhuri Madan Gopal Prabhu, would you like to read that? Reference from Prabhupada? Hare Krishna.
I
Humbly cede the floor to my dear Gurudev.
Madan Gopal Prabhu.
I'm obliged to your good daughter for awarding me a good degree as Swami Jesus, which is actually a great honor for me. Sometime the Lord speaks through innocent child, and I take this honor as sent by Lord Jesus through an innocent child freed from all formalities of the current society. Lord Jesus preached the message of God, and I have taken up the same mission, and it would be a good luck for me if I can follow the footprints of Lord Jesus, who preached the message of God in spite of all persecution. Lord Jesus is a living example of how one has to suffer in this material world simply for the matter of preaching the message of God. Srila Prabhupada's letter to Sally Agarwal is in 1965, before ISKCON was founded. Hare Krishna.
Sweet. Thank you very much, Madan Gopal Prabhu. Okay, and Bhima Prabhu, would you like to be the finisher today?
Sure. Can you hear me? I'm in the back of fields.
You sound a little
Hear
intoxicated.
me? Hold on for a second. Let me move.
Oh, that's better. That's better.
Are we better now?
Yes,
Are we better now?
That's better.
All right. All right. So I'd just like to make a little quote that I think summarizes what Giri Govardhan was speaking about. Each line can definitely coincide with Prabhu's lovely class about how close Krishna is and the the gift of mercy. So here's the quote. Psalm 23. Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you art with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overfloweth. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Merry Christmas, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Perfect.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Devaki Priti, would you like to recite the Maha Mantra sincerely and loudly like a child? Go out to the Lord, please. Devaki Priti.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Devaki Priti. Thank you, Giri Govardhan Prabhu. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, devotees.
Thank you for everything.
Merry
Hare
Christmas.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus.
Bhima.
Can I get a witness? Can I get a witness?
Go.